Hello and welcome. My name is Juan Ramirez. I'm a lead solutions architect with OutSystems, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to expose and consume REST APIs using OutSystems Developer Cloud. So in this example, we have an application that we are managing some data, and we want to expose this data through a secure REST API in order to be consumed by a mobile application. So let's navigate to our Odyssey Studio and open the Change Manager application. First thing we need to do is navigate to our Logic tab, expand the Integrations folder, right-click, and click on Expose REST API. Let's give it a name. We can set up a description. But we want to make sure that this is a secure API, so we're going to change the authentication method to custom. You can also use basic authentication, in which you will have to provide the username and password. In this case, we're going to use a custom authentication, as we're going to pass a token through the API through the header. So notice that there is an on authentication method or logic that has been created, and this action is running before any method is executed, so we can put our logic here to validate that token coming in. So we can do that first. Let's run a server action. Let's get header, request get header from the HTTP library. If you don't have it, just add it to your dependency menu. In this case, I'm going to call it token. We're going to check a condition, and we're going to make sure that that value is equal through a settings that we have already in our application called API token, which is set in the Odyssey portal. If you navigate to your data, you can see there's an API token variable. It's set up as a secret. So if we navigate to our Odyssey portal and open the Change Manager app, you can see that setting set up as a secret. So that's a token that we have already pre-generated, and it's sitting here. Great. So let's go back. We have an if condition. If the tokens are matched, we can end the flow, and the method will be executed. If not, let's go ahead and raise an exception. It's a new user exception. We're going to put a message, invalid API token. You can change the name of the exception, navigate into the Logic tab, opening user exception and changing the name. So this is going to be invalid API token. Awesome. So we have the on authentication logic set, which we're going to get the header, in this case the token header, validate, either raise an exception or continue. Now let's add a method, and we're going to call this get changes. We're going to have an input parameter. Remember, we call it token. And we want to make sure that we go to the advanced section and change the parameter where we're going to receive that input parameter. So we want to make sure that we get that in the header of the HTTP request. So we're good there. Now let's go ahead and add an output parameter, and we're going to call this list of changes This is going to be a list of change. Let's open up the method. Get changes. Notice that I'm using the AI suggestions. So get all the changes. We can open that one in. Look at the filtering. There's no filter. I just want to make sure that I do add a sort. So we're going to sort that by change ID descending, right? So the latest changes show first. Great. Then we set up the output variable to the result, and we are good to go. Now, in the change API, we have the documentation setting is set up to yes, so we're going to get some documentation generated once we publish this app. So let's do that. Okay, compile has finished. We can right-click on the API, see the documentation. There's a request URL. We can test it. We should get an error because we're not passing a token. That's good. The API is secure. We can make sure that we copy that one because we're going to use that URL in the next step. So API has been exposed. Let's go ahead and consume that API within our mobile application. So same step, we go to the logic tab, click on the REST API, but now we're going to consume an API. If we have multiple methods, we can do so. We can just add the swagger and select the methods that we want, or just, in this case, add a single method where I'm going to put the URL, set up my headers. I'm going to test this first. So let me take the token, try this out. Notice we get a response with actual values. I want to copy that to the response body. So now we have a nice structure on JSON within that response. And we can use that response on our get data logic within our form. So let's do so. Fetch data from another source because it's an API. And I'm going to call get API. I call get changes. I'm going to paste the response from the API here and delete the out1 variable that gets defined by default. I can search for the API call. I have to set up the token. Typically, we'll set up on a session, on a client variable, on a settings or somewhere where it's not just pasting it here, but in this case, we're just doing so. Next step, set the output variable to the result of the get changes API call. Now that we have that, we can go into our mobile app form. Let's drag a list. Let's set up the source to the response of the API. Let's do a cards item. Looks nice. And let's start adding some of these values here. So, title, description. Now here I will do an expression. I want to do something different. RFC dash plus, can't remember what the value is, so let's open the screen, response dot, sorry. All right, then I will have a nice form where we're going to see all the changes being displayed. Let's go ahead and publish this form and see the result. Now we're done. Let's open this up in the browser. Let's see the result. Great. Now I see all my changes that have been exposed from the web app through a REST API. Thank you very much. For any other questions or more information, navigate to OutSystems.com. Thank you.